Today, Ken and I share our thoughts about the Battle of Monmouth by GMT Games. So we just completed a fairly epic battle, the Battle of Monmouth, and it was, I found it to be actually very enjoyable and very tense at times. Ken, why don't we start with some overall impressions about the game? What do you think about the game itself, the Battle of Monmouth, as compared to this series, the rest of the battles of the American Revolutionary War? What are your overall thoughts?
Meeting engagement. A meeting engagement, and I find it to be similar, although we haven't done you and I have played this one, the Germantown.
Yeah.
I find it to be similar to that one. That in the system in a lot of ways. It's a meeting engagement where the two armies are coming together from a small force, and they're building up their armies, and who knows where they'll really end up. And Mark Miklos basically knows. He's got it down. He knows where we're going to end up, and we're going to end up right by that yellow star. He's play tested pretty well, I think.
Although the historical battle itself, thanks to General Lee, the Continentals ended up backing up by Parsonage Farm and the Hedgerow, and then eventually the West Morass. Conversely, the last time you and I played this game, the Americans actually made it all the way down to Monmouth Courthouse, and the British formed up a line along the East Morass, and then eventually pushed the Americans back. So it seems to me this game can accommodate both extremes. If Lee has a significant impact on, like countermarching, for example, the Continental forces, it's very conceivable that the Americans end up further to the west.
I think that it has a lot to do with how that first setup is with Simcoe and the militia.
Yeah.
And how that plays out. That can tell you how fast you can get up to the Monmouth Courthouse.
Yeah. So in this particular game, Simcoe actually took advantage of the Continental withdrawal along the morass to occupy Parsonage Farm. But for that lucky cannon shot that forced them to retreat, could have really slowed you down or held you back even further.
This was a game of just poor rolling. I've heard some people complain about die roll algorithms on the Vassal.
Huh.
Okay. And I'm thinking to myself, boy, oh boy, these things are way out of line almost sometimes. If you recall, just before that, another bad die roll, that wasn't a 0 or a 1, I don't think, but was the command and control of, I do believe it was Grayson.
Yeah.
Who had to halt himself right by the West Morass.
Yeah.
Who was going to come over there and take on the Simcoe, if I do believe.
Yes.
But he got frozen right at the spot where the other guys couldn't get through. So the lucky shot of the cannon was first preceded by the completely garbage roll of the Grayson.
Yeah. And I got to admit, I breathed a sigh of relief because I knew Simcoe was just hanging out there facing the full wrath of, or at least the wrath of the leading Continentals.
Oh, Simcoe is deadly.
In terms of this series, I find this battle very compelling. I feel that it has replay value in the sense that, you've got the command and control issues, of course, but depending on how things play out, you can end up fighting the battle closer to Parsonage Farm, or as we did in the previous game to this one, along the East Morass and Monmouth Courthouse. I think it replays well. The forces seem evenly balanced. There's opportunities and advantages for each player.
You had an opportunity right where you were about to charge me, and then I got the initiative.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the points I wanted to mention. There were moments when either one side or the other was slightly off balance, and if only the other side could capitalize. So there were a couple of times where I felt that you were not fully formed up. And I thought, oh, God, I really want the initiative because I think I could exploit that slight weakness that I found. But no, then the Americans would get it. And I'm sure the same was true in your case. There were a couple of times, especially towards the end, I think I got a double turns 13 and 14. And I got a double initiative. I mean, it ended up not hurting you as bad as it might have, but potentially it could have been devastating.
Yeah. I actually had thought maybe in those last turns that you were going to withdraw your tanks or your cannons and your men from my range so I wouldn't get that last defensive shot and get out of my range, go at my guys around the swampy area down by Simcoe, and just take that attack at it and see what happens.
Well, let's talk about some of the battles. First of all, you mentioned the die rolls. I'm looking at the chart now. If you just look at the way the dice fell, I would say it's on the extremes. It's either a 0 or a 1 or 2, or it's an 8 or a 9. There's only one roll that was a 6 that was kind of in the middle. And that was after a reroll, because the first roll, that was green. It was the last attack by green. The initial roll was really poor. And then you re-roll that one, and you finally got a 6.
Not only that, but look at the very turn of the very first attack. Turn 13.
Yeah.
We played out, 12 turns before we got into any position to even launch an attack.
Yeah, it was all about maneuver and position. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that goes back to initiative. There were a few times when I wanted to fight, I saw an opportunity, and then no, the Americans got the initiative. And you were able to form up. The other thing was the cannons. I think the British succeeded in getting their cannons into position a little bit better than the Americans until the very end, when really by turn 13, the Americans had their guns placed properly and were able to get a key result. I think it was one of my key units was forced to withdraw, and then it weakened my attack against Lee, who just had 2 units under him.
I have one word for you on it. Oswald.
Oswald.
Tell me about Oswald. He's great. He can stack with the cannons.
Yes.
He can get his firepower on, so he can get 3 on there.
Yes. He's scary.
Ooh, yeah.
And he moves 4, right?
Yeah. But he would double stack.
You didn't use him often, but the threat of Oswald kept me moving back. It kept pushing me back. I just didn't want to face your guns. Until later in the game, I finally decided, well, something's got to give. And that goes back to the other point that you raised. Instead of withdrawing on turn 14, I decided to attack pretty much along the line. And the reason was we made it this far and not much happened. And I could have just, as you say, I could have withdrawn and just taken the attack on my left flank on the south. But I didn't think I had a chance to win with that. I mean, if you have to win by 3 victory points, I don't think that was going to do it. And I wanted to either go for the win or die trying.
Where did you earn? Did you earn the momentum chip? Is that what you said?
I did.
And where was it?
I think it was the battle by No Flint
in the swamp.
On turn 14. I rolled a 9. And I rolled a 9 and I had a +1. So that gave me a 10.
This reminds me of something else I might say about the game rules, game system, or whatever. I don't like that you have the possibility to earn a momentum chip if you spend a momentum chip. Don't like that. Because, if you're like +4 to the dice, let's say you got a real good attack, +4. So you throw the dice and you get a 2 or some dynamic. But if you're +4, if you get a 6, you're going to get another one back. So you go, hey man, you got 40, you basically have an 80% chance of getting it right back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very bad.
But you know what? The end result was we fought to a draw anyway.
Right. It probably was a stalemate because, you think about it. I mean, two of the guys that you ended up, 2 casualties you took, the Enniskillens and the 2nd Grenadiers, when they took the head off of one of your leaders with the cannon, those probably wouldn't have happened. Those were the results of you almost charging up there at the end anyway.
Yeah.
So, those were kind of garbage victory points. They could have won either way, so that's fine. It probably was. My point is it probably was a draw. Although
the British are consoling themselves with the fact that Washington decided to withdraw from the field. So it's like, hey, we end up with possession of the battlefield, if you will. But it's cold comfort. One thing I'd like to mention, going back to a point you just made, is about leader losses. I think in the actual Revolutionary War, this period of battle, leader losses, I guess, were fairly common. Or they were definitely, let's put it this way, they were definitely a factor.
Eliminated, maybe, perhaps they mean wounded, out for the battle.
Yeah,
Doesn't
out
have
for
a
the battle,
wounded
if you will.
status. Yeah.
It also appears from playing this that leader loss is a real possibility. If we do an attack, you and I are both cognizant of the fact that dice roll modifiers are key. So
Yeah.
if you look at the battle table, I attacked a lot at 1-1. But 1-1 is not awful if you've got good die roll modifiers.
At one point, I opted for the 3-2 over the 2-1 against Erskine because, hey man, the same die roll modifiers and, well, it's almost the same chart.
Yeah, but here's the other
Still
thing.
rolled crappily.
No, that's true. But here's the other thing: if you're playing a game where you attack with good die roll modifiers, if you can get
That
2 or 3,
that drove my decision with Simcoe at the beginning of the game.
yeah. But if you can engage with good die roll modifiers, you have a decent chance of killing a leader, or at least getting a momentum chip.
And I'm coming away with the momentum chip to boot.
Ken, any other thoughts or impressions?
What do you think about Morgan in the South and the way it played out? Not that should you bring him on, but more of that the position you were in and the decision at that point not to bring him on because I thought pretty much they'd be surrounded. Do you think that would have been the case?
I have some thoughts about Morgan and also Green, who comes in through square A3, and then which is the unit that's coming along the north there? That's von Steuben. It's interesting to note that in this particular battle, Morgan, Green's units, if not Green himself, and von Steuben were basically out of the battle.
Mm-hmm.
Which means you were not able to bring the full force of your army to bear. But for purposes of this game, these were units that potentially could have come in. So, I mean, you did have a decision about Morgan, and I agree with the decision not to bring him in. At that point, things were evenly balanced.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take some losses with Morgan, because I had a couple of cannon down there and I had strong units and risk getting surrounded and pushed off the board.
Not only that, but look at the units that you would have gotten after my guys. A horse riding rifle unit and a 3-6 cavalry. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that goes back to the merits of this game. The number of choices you have to make, how to deploy units, how the vagaries of war influence your decision. I think that it makes the game enjoyable and replayable.
Okay, so mark me close. He's good at the opening moves. If you look at the opening moves of the game, such as this one, you have the decision with the Simcoe and the militia. If you go to Guilford, you have the decision about which way you're going to go, to the right, to the left, where you're going to put that one cavalry unit. You go over to Utah, it's the decision of using the momentum chip and getting past that barrier. If you go to Saratoga, if you recall back to that, a lot of that was based on the fog at the beginning of the game. If you roll fog at the beginning of the game, Burgoyne's units can get straight up to the front and they can take the field. If you roll partial fog, they're at the middle, and if you roll double fog, they're back, and the Americanos can take the field. So he has a way of setting up the game that have variable setups.
And I think that makes it fun.
Yeah.
So you mentioned some of the opening moves. What do you say, maybe discuss some of the different possibilities in the beginning of the game? How does that sound to you?
Let's do that.
So here we are. We're at the beginning of the game, the campaign game. I should mention before I forget that there are some other scenarios, at least on Vassal. There's Lee's advance, the holding action, and Washington's stand. So as good as the campaign game is, there are other scenarios to play. So I think this is a game worth having. Anyway, Ken, so here we are at the beginning of turn 1 of the campaign game. Walk me through your thoughts about different options or different ways things might have played out.
Okay. So as I did it, I was afraid of Simcoe and left. Went across the creek and said, hey, I'm out of here, right?
Right.
Okay. So here's my thoughts. You can do a number of things. So you got the hill. You can go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, right?
Right.
If you do that, then Simcoe can do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's bad for these guys, right?
Yeah. Does the hedgerow...
Gives you 2. It gives you 2.
Okay.
Which is good. Okay, so I'd be plus 3. You'd be minus 1. You'd be militia minus 2 in the hedgerow. You'd be even. So they'd be basically add 3, I think, as that goes, right?
Yeah.
1 to 2, add 3. So, okay. So you're 1 to 2, add 3, right? So let's look at it.
Let me pull that up. Okay.
So your rundown, you're at 3. If you roll a 0, you're at 3. So you're running from 3 up to 11.
Right.
You can actually get a 20% chance of getting a 1 on the guy and getting a chip to boot. And eliminating a unit in a victory point. And not only that, but you have a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60% chance of just really outright winning the battle. So let's say you win the battle. Probably would. Now, either you're going to toast these guys or not, but you're going to come in here. Now, these guys have to, they got to attack you or get out of there.
So now what are the modifiers if von Steuben attacks?
Oh, it's bad news, probably.
Well, it's 4 to 1. You've got the odds. They don't go higher than 4 to 1.
You'd have militia attacking bad guys.
So that's a negative. You've got negative morale, and von Steuben has 1. Simcoe has a plus 3, plus 4, plus 5. It would be 4 to 1, but the modifiers are highly in favor of Simcoe.
Yeah, now you go down the list, now you're getting your own ass crunched. And you give the guy a momentum chip too. Probably. Now these are just the odds, right? You can win any of these.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah. So let's say you don't do that. You go back to the beginning. So you go, no, that's bad news. I want to do this one. Okay. Well, that's the same thing, right? It's the same thing. Because it's still going to be this will be a 1 to 3 then. You look at the charts. You're still plus 3, I do believe. So you're running from 3 to
So
12,
what are the modifiers?
Right?
I'm attacking.
I think it would be the same
1,
as it was
plus
before.
3. What's the hedgerow? It's minus 2?
2, yeah.
So it's still a plus 1, but you've got negative morale. It's plus 3.
Yeah. So you're running from 3 to 12, which gives you a 30% chance of getting of a momentum chip. You're probably going to win another 50 to 60% of the time. You're going to R the guy or something. Okay. So you can do that. You might end up in the same position. Okay. So you don't like that. Maybe. So maybe you like this one. You go, well, let's put them up on the hill. Gosh. One was because they can get around the hedge by going in here.
Right.
Okay, so you're not going to get the hedge on the hill. You're just going to get the 1.
Right.
Now you can line up a guy over there, maybe, and put him over here. But then you know what this guy's going to do is he's going to go over here like this.
Yeah. Hey, back up the New Jersey into the orchard and put Simcoe facing both units. According to the diversion rules, you do a shift to the left. But if you're already at 1 to 3, can you do the diversion? And if so, do you stay at 1 to 3? I guess that's the question. Because it might be, if I can do the diversion, it might be worth it to just attack the New Jersey Brigade anyway.
The thing is, if you're setting up there, because you have the first move, right?
Yeah, the Americans do, right?
Yeah, so if you're setting up there, I'm still over here. I'm just riding around over here then. Hello.
Yeah,
I'm not moving in there.
Yeah, true.
At all. So that position won't happen. I won't do that. I'll make you do I'll make you protect both those hexes. Or I'll jump up if you go, hey man, I'll just protect this thing here. I mean, what are you going to abandon the hill? Then I'll right up on top of the hill. And, do something bad. Or even just attack you the same way I was going to attack you before.
Yeah. It's interesting.
That was the dilemma I was in. And now that I've said that, what would you have done? Let me put them in the starting position. I still have that.
Okay.
So what would you do?
As the American.
Yes. I think Mark Miklos, like I said, he's got these opening setups. I think he's pretty good at play testing these. And he knows, okay, you're not going to get, I'm going to let you do that. I'm going to put it over here,
Yeah. So let's just play this out for a second. What if the Americans go like this too? So what does it cost to cross the hedgerow?
Probably +1 down the hill also.
Dragoons are +2 though.
Oh.
Yeah.
And you know what else it does not say? I didn't see anywhere in the rules, is that you don't have to pay for both. Now it says you don't have to pay for both if it's a slope and a creek. That's specific. But if it's a slope and a hedgerow, you may have to pay both. If I was playing against you, I'd be like, well, that might cost +3.
Okay, so that'd be 4. So you can't get it. You can't do any better than that. So you can't get the guy surrounded. That's what I was going at.
Right.
So what if it only cost +2? So that'd be 3, 4, 5. It still can't make it into here.
No.
So if I can't surround you, and I've only got two strength, so it's 2 to 1, with horrible die roll modifiers because they're both negative and they're militia. Oh, that's tough. Yeah.
I think an attack might be out of the question.
I think attack is out of the question. Yeah.
Let me take 1 unit out of these reinforcements, and I'm going to put them 8. +2 movement points. So 10 movements down the road. Okay. And I just want to see how far they're going to get.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They'd be there at the end of that turn. Okay? So they'd be right there. They'd have a column behind them, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So nonetheless, how would you define that again?
I don't know. This discussion explains very well why you chose to go behind the morass.
And I was gun shy.
Yeah.
So let's say, if it happens the way it happened, then I'm up to the yellow star when you get on. If I'm able to somehow, or if the guy Simcoe withdraws or doesn't go for it or doesn't do it somehow, then they're able to advance farther down towards Monmouth Courthouse, and that's when they can take it.
Yeah.
They got to get Simcoe out of the way.
Yeah. Well, so I don't remember exactly how you were at the beginning of the game, but you were behind the morass.
It's right. Like that. That's the setup.
No, I mean at the end of your move.
Oh yeah, I probably had the 6 there, and maybe the guys behind them. Yeah, I think it might have been more like that. Whatever.
Okay. When presented with that, then Simcoe is thinking, there's a victory point on offer. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yes.
4, 5, 6.
Okay.
Right? Now you've got the victory point. However, he's hanging out there.
Yes.
He's now inviting an attack.
Yes.
And maybe not with von Steuben for the reasons you mentioned. But guess who's coming?
Yes.
Up, down the road.
You can get the double turn on the guy and then surround us.
And he's hanging out there alone with just 1 point. I took the victory point, but I was worried.
Well, and, the one guy got command and control that the guy.
Yeah, and I got lucky. I mean, I did move on to the hill, which gave me another dice roll modifier.
Right on.
Anyway, it raises some interesting questions.
Yes. How would other people do it? I don't know.
That's all for now. Thanks for watching. This has been The Great Game.